GMO.
本日はお忙しい中、当社決算説明会にご参加をいただきまして誠にありがとうございます。
Thank you for taking the time to join us for our earnings presentation of our first quarter of 2014. I'll get started right away. Before we begin talking about the current quarter, I'd like to briefly mention the revision to business segments effective from the first quarter. The Daily Deals business has been moved to the media segment, and as you can see, we have renamed some segments.
本日のアジェンダです。
Here you can see the topics we will cover today. I will be talking about our strategy for new domains, such as .tokyo, as we go over financial results and the segment reports. I'll start with an overview of Quarter 1 2014's results. After expensing some one-time costs in the first quarter, revenue grew while profits fell. I'll talk in more detail about this later in the presentation. In the first quarter, we saw a rise in revenue against a drop in profit. However, in each segment, we are continuing to see good growth momentum, and there is no revision to earning forecasts for the year. Next, I'll go over some of the highlights of the quarter. Internet infrastructure earnings increased by 24.2%. We did spend on promoting new domains, and I will talk about our midterm strategy in this area in the final part of today's presentation.
24.2% の増収でしたが、新ドメインの今期のプロモーションおよび中長期の戦略について最後のパートでご説明をさせていただきます。
In online advertising and media, profit was up 87.3% quarter on quarter, and the segment recovered from the previous quarter.
3% の増益となりました。前四半期からは業績は回復しております。
In Internet securities, profit was up by 13.5% as we continued to expand customer base by pursuing a cost leadership strategy.
コストリーダーシップ戦略により顧客基盤の拡大が続いております。
Consolidated net sales from smartphone games, now mobile entertainment, totaled 600 million yen. In this segment, 230 million yen was spent on improving business structure to reduce costs.
2級以降黒字化に向けた事業構造改善を行い、一時コストを 2.3 億計上しております。
I'd like to talk about some of the one-time costs expensed in the current quarter. There are three reasons for the drop in operating profit this quarter. The first is that we spent 400 million yen on sales promotions in the provider business. The second is that we spent 250 million yen on advertising in games and in domains. The third is the one-time amortization of assets in the game business of 100 million yen. This is a total cost of 750 million yen. If we look at operating profit exclusive of these costs, operating profit would reach 3 billion yen. This is over 20% profit growth. I'll talk more about the largest of these factors, the provider business, on the next slide.
特に影響が大きかったプロバイダー販促費について次のページでご説明をさせていただきます。
The provider business provides ISP services. Within this segment, we are seeing over 100% annual growth in demand for mobile Wi-Fi devices. In this business, we ran a cashback campaign to promote sales, and we saw an increase in ARPU and contracts eligible for a cashback return. In the first quarter, we surpassed the peak in both unit price and number of contracts, and the entire maximum cashback cost was expensed. No further costs will occur in relation to this campaign. Going forward, we will control costs to ensure an appropriate level of investment in marketing the provider business.
4億円を一括計上いたしました。これにより過去の反則に対する手当は完了いたしました。今後はキャッシュバックの単価をコントロールすることで反則費を適正水準にグリップをいたします。
Moving on, I will report on financial results in the current quarter. I'll begin with an overview of profit and loss. We have already talked about operating profit, but other aspects of the P&L statement I would point to are a change in equity investees following the segment reorganization, and other extraordinary profits totaled 720 million yen. Extraordinary losses totaled 340 million yen and included impairment losses on games and an increase in the provision for securities transaction liabilities.
金融商品取引責任準備金繰り入れなど特別損失を約 3.4 億円計上しております。
This next slide shows our balance sheet. For your reference, GMO Click Holdings figures are shown on the right. Excluding the securities segment, the balance sheet is shown at around 70 billion yen. Interest-bearing debt has increased, but this is due to an increase in securities segment trading volume and higher liquidity on hand. We don't regard this level of debt as an issue.
有利子負債が増加しておりますが、証券業での3月末の取引増に備え、手元流動性を積み増したことによるもので、足元は問題ない水準に戻っております。
The next slide shows cash flow position. 13.45 billion yen was spent in operating cash flow. 660 million yen was spent in investing cash flow, and 16.9 million yen was generated in financing cash flow. The current position of cash and equivalents is 55.6 billion yen. GMO Click Holdings cash flow is again shown for your reference on the right.
こちらもご参考までに GMO クリックホールディングスのキャッシュフローを右側に記載をさせていただいております。
Operating cash flow is negative and financing cash flow positive, but as I mentioned earlier, this is consistent with normal activity in the securities segment.
証券事業のキャッシュフロー特有の一時的なものでございます。
The group operates in 4 business segments from left to right: Internet infrastructure, online advertising and media, Internet securities, and mobile entertainment. Customer contracts in each segment are also shown on each slide. Excluding user IDs in the local and global gaming business, all of these figures are active users. 55.81 million IDs in the game business is a cumulative measure. All other figures represent active users.
アクティブな契約あるいはアクティブユーザーの件数となっております。 5581万 ID だけが累積ですが、その他の数字はすべてアクティブな件数となっております。
The total number of staff in the group is 3,800. And of those, over 1,520 are engineers and creators. The percentage of our staff who are creators is now 40%. In the midterm, we aim to have creators comprise of over 50% of our staff, and we have a number of engineer recruitment initiatives underway to achieve this.
中期的には 50% 以上までに高めたいと考えており、さまざまなエンジニア採用強化策に取り組んでおります。
Moving on, the next slide shows net sales. You can see here that in particular, the Internet infrastructure segment is driving growth. The next slide shows operating profit. As I explained earlier in the presentation, profit fell 22%.
22% の減益となっております。
This slide shows composition of the Internet infrastructure segment. Market share expanded several points across each product during the first quarter. Our domain market share is over 90% in Japan, and we are overwhelmingly number 1 in the market. We see domain registration as essential to growth strategy for the entire segment, and I will talk more about that later in the presentation. Today, following my presentation, GMO Paperboy and GMO Cloud will be presenting quarterly results. I encourage you to stay for these presentations to gain a deeper understanding of group strategy.
各社の戦略をご理解いただくためにもぜひご参加いただければと思います。
This slide shows a breakdown of net sales in the infrastructure segment. In this quarter, segment sales exceeded 10 billion yen for the first time. This is a result of overall good performance across all products.
各商材のトレンドに大きな変調はなく、総じて好調でございます。
This slide shows net sales and operating profit in internet infrastructure over the past 2 years. Excluding promotion sales costs in the provider business, operating profit would be over 1.4 billion yen, a record high level. In this term, we are continuing to invest in maintaining our leading position in the internet infrastructure market.
このインターネットインフラの分野で圧倒的に勝ち切るため攻めの投資を続けたいというふうに考えております。
Contracts in the Internet Infrastructure segment now total 5.19 million. That is active contracts. This number does not include 250,000 provider business customers. If we include the sub-segment, total contracts is at around 5.5 million. The majority of these accounts are recurring payments, and this customer base represents a stable revenue, and this is growing at a rate of 600,000 new contracts a year, or 50,000 new contracts a month, or 1,500 new contracts a day.
これらの大部分がストック型の契約であり、長期にわたる私どもグループの安定的な収益基盤となっております。続きましてインターネット広告メディア
Moving on, the next segment is the online advertising and media segment. From this year, the segment has been renamed the Online Advertising and Media segment. Previously, it was the Internet Media segment. In the first quarter, net sales were 9.1 billion yen, an increase of 16%. Ad network and smartphone-related products drove growth in the online advertising sub-segment.
アドネットワーク商材、スマホ向け商材を中心に拡大をいたしております。
Net sales grew 13.2% quarter on quarter. At the end of the last quarter, we saw a change in search engine algorithms impacting operating profit. But this quarter, we have seen a full recovery in SEO, and profit rose 87.3%.
一時的な影響を受けた SEO 事業が回復しており、87.3% 増益となりました。
This graph shows revenue from ad network products. In ad tech-related business, revenue grew 41.1% year-on-year. Growth drivers include increased smartphone app downloads, reward advertising, and our own affiliate advertising products. Going forward, we will continue to focus on growing our own products to widen profit margins.
今後も自社商材比率を向上させ、利益率の向上に注力をさせて、してまいります。
This slide shows performance in the Internet Securities segment. Both FX and securities had strong quarters, and both revenue and profits increased. This slide shows trends in FX and securities trading volume. FX trading volume was at around 70 trillion yen a month, and there was a good level of activity in both the FX and securities markets.
為替相場、証券市場ともに依然として活況です。
For the past 2 years, we have achieved the highest online FX trading volume of any service worldwide. In this segment, we will continue to pursue a cost leadership strategy to grow market share. This slide represents sales and operating loss in the mobile entertainment segment. GMO GamePot was consolidated from this quarter. Here we will use an animation to demonstrate. We had expected this segment to be profitable by last year. However, as you can see, we reported an operating loss of 690 million in the first quarter. Cost composition was significantly revised in this segment in line with changes in the market environment.
事業環境の変化に合わせ、一級において抜本的なコスト構造の改革を行いました。
Part of this included amortization of poorly performing titles, and this is one reason why the loss in this segment was greater than expected. I will talk about specific plans for this segment going forward on the next slide. We currently have around 10 game titles in the pipeline. As you can see here, we have 3 strategies for growing the top line in this segment. In regard to our existing titles, we have built up significant know-how in more than a year since some of these games were released. These games have been carefully fine-tuned and going forward will generate stable revenue. Of the three strategies, this is the one in which we have made the most progress. Secondly, we plan to release successful existing titles on new platforms, such as Line Dream Garden. We have already made some progress here and will be continuing to expand into new platforms as well as new geographies. Thirdly, we are developing new titles with the objective of creating a further upside for the business. The development pipeline has been slimmed down, and we are focusing on producing a hit from among fewer titles. This is the kind of portfolio we are building. Once the first and second points are achieved, we will be in a good position from which to achieve the third. We will make sure this segment is profitable in quarter 2.
ご覧いただきました通り、1と2で足元を固めた後、効率的に3を狙いに行くという、アプリのポートフォリオの考え方を持っております。2級の黒字化は必ず、達成いたします。必達をいたします。
This slide introduces Line Dream Garden, one of our games that is currently doing very well. As you can see here, Line users access the game directly from within the Line ecosystem, and this has enabled us to rapidly increase user numbers. We expect this trend to continue going forward. There are very few third-party developers on the Line platform, and we plan to enhance our offering going forward. Finally, I would like to talk about our strategy for new domains. I'd like to preface this part of the presentation by saying that 2014 is a year in which we are focused on strengthening our infrastructure business. This is our legacy business and a vital part of our stock or recurring revenue. We have just launched new domains .Tokyo and .Nagoya, and through 2014 we are committing up to 1 billion yen to promote new domains. We want domain registration to become synonymous with GMO Internet Group, and we will be undertaking some large-scale promotion this year.
GMO Internet グループを第一早期ブランドとすべく、この春から夏にかけまして大規模プロモーションを行い、この領域において勝負をつけたいと考えております。
There are three reasons why we want to establish a strong position in new domains. One is that the new domain business has very high profit margins. The second is that acquiring new domain registration customers provides new cross-sell opportunities throughout the infrastructure segment and a chance to further grow segment revenue. And finally, the third is that these are the kind of sticky products that customers will use for as long as the internet exists. Each year, we register around 2 million new domains and renew around 1.85 million domains. In Japan, we are overwhelmingly the leader in this market. When we sell domains like .com, .net, or .jp, the gross margin is around 10 to 15%. This business model will not change going forward. However, .Tokyo and .Nagoya domains are operated by our registry business and are very high profit margin products. Excluding management and operational costs, the registration fees are almost purely gross profit. Beginning in July, these new domains will be available for general registration. To coincide with this, we are planning large-scale promotions to generate excitement about new domains in Japan. The objective of this promotion is to both grow registration volume overall and to increase the ratio of high-margin products in the sales mix.
年間一定の管理料あるいは運用コストを除き全てが粗利となる高粗利商材です。この7月から開始をいたします新ドメインの一般登録をターゲットに大規模プロモーションを展開し国内外のマーケットを一気に盛り上げてドメイン総数の拡大とともにセールスミックスによる利益率の拡大を進めてまいります。
The second point I would like to talk about is cross-sell opportunities. When we look at the revenue composition of the 5 major products in the infrastructure segment, we see a natural cross-sell that begins with the domain products and provides new customer acquisition opportunities in hosting, e-commerce, payment, and SSL. On the right hand of this slide, you can see that we have separated domain and non-domain sales. If we look at ratio of domain revenue to non-domain revenue over the past 10 years, and look at the cross-sell multiplier indicated by the red line, we can see that on average, over the past 10 years, non-domain revenue size has been around 6.9 times the size of domain revenue. This is evidence of the relationship between domain registration, domain revenue, and non-domain revenue over the past 10 years. As long as the internet continues to exist, there will always be demand for these services.
過去10年の実績から証明しております。そしてインターネットがあり続ける限り永遠になくならないビジネスの起点となっております。
This slide shows domain registration, registration fees, population, and GDP by country. I think everyone is probably very interested in how many domain registrations we can achieve for .Tokyo. The answer to that is, we don't know yet. But we can talk about the potential of .Tokyo and our strategy from the point of view of the company that first established the domain market in Japan. Firstly, if we take a look at country code Tlds in different countries, you can see that in countries with high GDPs, when the domain registration fee is low, registration volume is high. The Germany TLD.de has the highest registration volume of any CC TLD in the world at 15 million. There are several factors that have contributed to this. In Germany, there are a number of large registrars that have actively worked to grow the local market, and the government has given away domains for free at times also. The Netherlands, a country with a similar sized GDP and population to Tokyo, has a total registration volume of over 5 million. We consider this a benchmark for .Tokyo. In Japan, a country with a population 1.5 times the size of Germany, while GDP and population are high, the registration fee is also high, and as a result, total registration volume for .jp is only 1.3 million. Tokyo has been recognized as the fourth most popular city in the world, behind London, New York, and Paris. GMO Internet Group will sell .Tokyo at less than 1,000 yen a year in order to promote the Tokyo brand and maximize usage. Domains will enhance the strength of our internet infrastructure business. Combining our track record in the domain registration market with the Tokyo brand, we aim to first achieve the same registration volume and then to exceed that level and reach several million registrations.
私どものドメイン運用実績と東京のブランドにより、まずは .jp ドメインの登録件数をターゲットとして、数百万単位でのドメイン登録数を目指してまいります。
This slide shows the launch schedule for new domains. In February and April, we launched .Nagoya and .Tokyo respectively. In the first phase of the launch, domains can only be registered by trademark holders. General availability of these domains will open in June to July. In the second quarter, registration is limited to trademark holders, but from the third quarter, we will start to see revenue from .Tokyo and .Nagoya. Next, we expect to launch .Yokohama sometime in May. Next year, we will also be participating in auctions to secure the rights to operate other domains, including .shop and .mail.
来年にオークションが予定されております。こちらもぜひご期待をいただきたいと思います。
GMO Internet is the company that built the domain market in Japan. New domains will create a new wave of growth in the market, and we are looking forward to seeing new growth in the domain market drive overall growth of our infrastructure business. Thank you for joining us today. Internet for everyone.
ご清聴いただきまして誠にありがとうございました。すべての人にインターネット